This is a true and utterly fascinating story. Today, we'll delve into the case of Sylvia Quayle, who was found dead in her own home in 1981, and how, after 40 years of searching, her mysterious killer was finally identified. But before we begin, if you're new to the channel and enjoy true crime and mysterious stories, consider subscribing by clicking the button below. In the summer of 1981, in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, a small community of about 5,000 residents, lived 34-year-old Sylvia Quayle. Unfortunately, not much information about Sylvia has survived, but we know she was born in September 1946 and grew up in a loving family with her parents and her younger sister, Cindy. Many described her as someone who could light up any room with her radiant smile. She was especially close to her sister, whom she loved dearly. On August 3, 1981, Sylvia left work and returned home as night fell. She lived alone at the time. Shortly before 11 p.m., she called her sister. While we don't know the exact details of their conversation, it was positive, and the sisters made plans together. After wishing each other good night, Sylvia went to bed. The next morning, Sylvia's father came by to pick her up, as was their daily tradition. They would stop by a local cafe for a cup of coffee. However, upon entering the house, his life was forever changed. He found Sylvia's lifeless body on the living room floor and immediately called the police. Authorities determined that at some point during the night of August 3rd to 4th, Sylvia had been attacked. She had multiple stab wounds, had been strangled, and was also shot in the head. The phone line to the house had been cut, suggesting the crime occurred after her conversation with her sister. Additionally, the screen covering the bathroom window was removed and found in nearby bushes, indicating the suspect likely entered through the bathroom window. The family and the local community were devastated. Despite their eagerness to find the culprit, no solid leads emerged. Forensic technology in the early 1980s was still developing, and without any strong suspects, the likelihood of solving the crime seemed slim. Investigators collected all possible evidence from the crime scene and preserved it meticulously, hoping that future advancements might help solve the case. And so, the case of Sylvia Quayle was set aside for a very long time. 2 years later, in 1983, investigators revisited the case, attempting to uncover new leads. They utilized emerging forensic technologies, such as alternate light sources, which could reveal hidden evidence using specific wavelengths of light. Using this technology, they examined a piece of carpet from the crime scene and discovered foreign biological material. However, with limited capabilities at the time, they couldn't progress further, and the case was shelved once more. It wasn't until 1995 that the carpet sample was sent to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation for further examination and DNA profiling. By the year 2000, they had developed a complete DNA profile of the suspect. Unfortunately, the profile didn't match anyone in the state or national databases, leaving investigators at another dead end. Years later, as forensic genealogy emerged as a powerful tool, analysts decided to upload the suspect's DNA profile to publicly available genealogical websites. These platforms allow individuals to discover relatives they might not have known about by comparing DNA profiles. Investigators hoped to find a familial match, and they did. However, the DNA matched to a family tree involving over 3,000 people across the country. Undeterred, investigators began the painstaking process of narrowing down potential suspects. They examined public records, newspapers, and any available information about these individuals, their associates, places of residence, and backgrounds. This exhaustive effort eventually paid off, narrowing the list from thousands to a single individual, David Dwayne Anderson. David had lived in Colorado in 1981, at the time of Sylvia's murder, a coincidence too significant to ignore. He had since moved to Nebraska, so investigators traveled there to gather more evidence without alerting him. On January 29, 2021, detectives discreetly collected items from his trash, including 2 empty beer bottles and a can of vanilla Coca-Cola. While the bottles didn't yield usable DNA, the Coke can did. The DNA from the can was sent for analysis, and it matched the DNA found at the crime scene in Sylvia's house. This crucial piece of evidence placed David at the scene of the crime on the day of the murder. On February 10, 2021, David Anderson was arrested at his home in Nebraska and extradited to Colorado. He was charged with several felonies, including first-degree murder. At the age of 62, he faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison. In May 2023, David Anderson pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in the killing of Sylvia Quayle and was sentenced to 48 years in prison, finally bringing some closure to Sylvia's family after 4 decades. Interestingly, this wasn't the first time someone had confessed to Sylvia's murder. In 1983, notorious serial killers Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole falsely confessed to the crime, but were later cleared when their confessions were deemed unreliable. It's worth pondering how long it took David Anderson to feel safe, believing he had gotten away with his crime. It's evident that guilt didn't compel him to come forward. This case serves as a reminder that the truth can surface even after many years, thanks to advances in technology and relentless investigative work. If you found this story intriguing, please give it a thumbs up and check out our video about the TikTok murderer, another fascinating case. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories.